You were listening to episode 246 of Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we kick bass in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
I'm liking that, dude. I like your first one that you proposed. I thought that would have been hilarious, but not age appropriate for the podcast, apparently.
Yeah, we'll worry about telling people about our rods later on.
Yeah. So we played a little bit of Sega Bass Fishing on the Sega Dreamcast, because that's where you should play Sega Bass Fishing with our rod. And it was a good time. But we'll get into that a little bit later during our inflation deflation segment. First, let's say that you can find the Game Deflators at thegamedeflators.com, our currently out-of-date website, because I haven't updated the most recent episode on there. YouTube, find us on Game Deflators on YouTube. You can, of course, find us on social media at The Game Deflators on Instagram and Facebook, at Game Deflators on X, not Twitter. It's officially X.
Is it officially X now?
The app logo is an X.
Okay, well, find us at X.
At X.
You know when they say X marks the spot? You're it, baby. Yeah. Right here. You're in the place.
That's what Elon...
Tell everybody about it.
That's what Elon was thinking. You're so innovative. You're just like him. So yeah, find us on X, or formerly known as Twitter, I guess. I don't know what the hell it is nowadays. And of course, you can find us on the podcast app you're listening to right now. But of course, leave us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate that. Pickups. So... I picked up Tunic this week on the Nintendo Switch.
You sure did.
I sure did. And it looks like everything I imagined it would look like.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. The Zelda-style manual, Zelda-style map that comes with it. Obviously, the little fox with the sword and shield. It's great. I've been wanting to play Tunic for a while, and when I saw that, I think it's Fangamer is when it released this. I didn't take a gamble, per se, because GameStop has it too, but I saw that it was... full color manual, all that good stuff, and was like, well, let me just grab this, because this looks like a pretty neat-ass copy of a game to keep. So got that in hand. I also picked up some more Magic the Gathering cards for a blue deck I'm running, and a couple, sparingly, other types of cards that I might want to put into another deck down the road that I felt could be of potential, I prospected. Basically, say, I'm seeing these played in Magic Arenas, which I'm still playing, and... they look like they could actually hold up in the future. And you know how cards are, right? You could have a card that at the time might be $2, but another card gets released that is compatible with said card, and then the old card goes up to $20, $30. So there's a few cards I was looking at that were of that nature, and I decided to pick those up while I could on the cheap. I also got Horizon Zero Dawn Lego set, so it's the... tall
giraffe thing. The satellite giraffe.
It's more of a brontosaurus, but
brontosaurus,
yes.
Giraffe, satellite.
Yeah, whatever the hell it is. I got that, which I'm stoked. It's something I've been wanting to buy for a while, so I got that. And then I got the D&D cookbook, the official D&D cookbook, which is pretty cool.
Does it have a mechanic where you can roll for your meal?
You know what? I'm not sure, but that'd be pretty hilarious, right? And you roll a 1, and it's the most expensive thing that you could potentially create out of a book.
I would think maybe they did 20 entrees and 12 desserts and 10 appetizers, so that you could take a coordinated dice and roll it for okay, what do we want to do for appetizer, meal, and dessert kind of thing.
I don't know. I haven't dove into it that much. It looks good though. It's got some great pictures. The recipes look interesting. It has drinks in there too, I think. Nice. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's actually a very nice quality book, too, as far as, cookbooks are concerned.
Yeah.
So pick that up. And then I also got, it's Ashura's Revenge, I think it's called, or Ashura something.
Asura?
Asura. Yeah, Asura. I'm thinking Ashura from, I want to say it's Magic the Gathering. There's an Ashura. I don't remember. But either way, I got that. It's the Dragon board game thing. It's 2 to 5 players, which is pretty cool. Would be in 2 to 5 players. So my wife and I can play it, or somebody else can come over and play too. And the cool thing is that actually you can mix and match it with the Ravenloft game that I have too. So that's also kind of cool to make a new adventure. So got that as well. and some D&D minis, some the diecast minis that they released a while back. I got some of those too.
Nice.
So, a lot of pickups this week. Not really a ton of, outside of Tunic, not a lot of game pickups.
I'm so jealous of that game.
You should pick it up, dude.
It's a great game. It comes with the full manual. If you haven't played the game, the manual is a very integral part of the game in the game because it was like a digital release originally.
Yeah.
So having like the full manual just in your hand is great, but also it's cheating. So just if you want the full experience, I definitely would advise to play the game just straight up without the manual.
I'll do that. I'm not going to play with the manual. I'll play because you find manual pages throughout, right?
Yeah.
As you collect or finish puzzles and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my goal is to play it as it was meant to be played and the manual being a secondary component. Unless you have to find pieces of the manual and draw it yourself. That'd actually be pretty interesting.
Right.
To ruin the manual. And then let's see. What was the other thing? I picked up the PlayStation Plus games for the month. So Alan Wake Remastered, Call of Duty, which I'll never play, and I don't even remember the other one. I mean, that kind of shows you where it's at, right? Like, you pick them up just to pick them up, and that's pretty much it. So
I mean, they're not bad games. Like, it's not like just like, here's some shovelware. Like, those are like titled games.
yeah, they're good games, but it's not.
Have you
like,
played Alan Wake?
No, actually, so I'm happy it's on there because I'll play it. That's why I remembered Alan Wake specifically because it's one that's on my list for down the road. But as far as currently playing, I am still playing Returnal. My mom's in town right now, so I haven't played too many games, but I did play some Returnal while
That's
she
a
was
good
here.
one to be able to just like, you've got a little bit of time to sit down and play a game. You can do that.
Well, and it's cool because you have the suspend cycle too. So
Yeah.
somebody's like, hey, we got to go do something. It's like, oh, okay, let me suspend my cycle and then we'll keep going type of thing. Or I'll go on and then come back later. So that's pretty cool. With Returnal, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I got past the first biome. So I beat the first boss.
Nice.
I don't know if I have to beat the boss again to be able to. I don't think you do. I think you could just pick up a key that like creates an elevator type deal and sends you to the next level. But they recommend, in what I've been reading, they recommend you finish the first biome and get through it because there's like the astronauts that you pick up, and the astronauts, when you pick them up, allow you to, like, if you die, you regenerate on the spot, right? So there's little things like that are kind of valuable that you kind of want to play the first biome again. It'll allow you to upgrade your weapons and get everything that's
You need
needed
to go
for
through
that.
level 1 so you could be ready for level 2. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because it's a cycle-based thing. Otherwise, you're starting at level 2 with like no power.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of have to, and the enemies on level 2 get increasingly harder. So, and that second boss, I've been reading that he's actually probably the hardest boss in the game outside of like the last boss in the game. So
you're looking at a big wall moment to have to overcome.
yeah, so it's going to take a lot of like, practice for sure. Like continue practicing the game and getting better at it. So this is a get good type of game.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
This is not a.
It's a bullet hell. It's
Yeah.
a 3D bullet hell. All bullet hells are get good games.
Yeah, this is a tough one for sure. So I'm excited for the challenge. I think it's a good one, and I can kind of pick up and play, like you said, whenever I want. That said, another game I can kind of pick up and play is Magic the Gathering Arena. I've just been doing my dailies, basically, and my weeklies, which is you have like 15 weekly tasks, right, which is you win 15 games, and then every day you can win up to 15 games and get gold and cards and such to add to the collection. And, of course, you have your main, like, one a day, which is usually about 500 to 750 gold that you would get.
So you're just on that treadmill.
Yeah, I'm just on that, like, okay, let's knock out a few games. Let's get some cards and gold.
See, I can't get behind that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff, Battle Pass stuff. Like, I just hate being under that kind of, like, time pressure to do things.
Oh, the dailies, I don't really care about too much, right? Like, the big thing for me is knock out the one a day. And then here's the thing. If you knock out your one a day and your first daily, you get 1,000 gold typically.
Yeah.
And 1,000 gold buys you a pack. So if you play in a week, you get enough gold for, a pack. You can normally, with your dailies and your weeklies and everything, you could typically get like 2 packs in a day, especially if you're daily. Like there's enough daily tasks essentially that you can get 2 packs a day. I don't play that many games. I get enough to get 1 pack a day essentially. And that I'm holding off right now so that when a new Eldraine set or whatever it is comes out, I'll buy packs for that automatically, so I don't have to worry about it. So there's that piece. And White Knight Chronicles, I haven't played anything since I played Returnal. I will go back to that. It's just,
Welcome to my world, John. Welcome
No.
to the new and the shiny.
It's definitely not
the new and the
that.
shiny will keep you occupied until December.
It is definitely not that. It is my
Get back around to White Knight Chronicles later, John. Later.
I will get back to it. It really is a matter of my mom being in town, and so I can't sit back and really play an RPG because she stays up just as late as I do. So it's not like I'm going to sit there with my mom next to me like playing White Knight Chronicles, right? So we actually had picked up Sons of Anarchy, and we've been watching that together. Oh, man, dude, that show's so good. So we've been playing that or watching that, and that's been good. But how about yourself, pickup-wise?
I didn't pick up anything.
Nothing?
Imagine that. No.
Oh,
nothing.
okay.
Nothing video game
No
related.
PlayStation Plus games? Nothing?
No, I don't do the PS Plus anymore.
No Game Pass?
Nothing new. I mean, ever since I switched my Vita over to preservation mode, I've been playing Final Fantasy IX.
You hear about people? There's nothing new on Game Pass. It's not worth it, clearly.
Not yet. We'll talk about that later on, though.
All right.
So, yeah, been playing some Final Fantasy IX. That's going well. I enjoy Final Fantasy IX. I'm still on disc 1. I will have to load disc 2 and 3 and 4 on once I get ready for those. But other than that, it was the what was it? The Riyadh Major this week for Dota 2. I finally got back into watching some of that, and man, this season has gone totally crazy from what I understand, since I actually did not watch much of it. But I guess that Gaming Gladiators has won like every major, and so spoiler alert if you have not finished watching it, they did not win this one. So that was cool to watch some Dota. I guess this was like a really high-paying tournament, and TI is around the corner. That'll be in October this year. It used to be in the summertime, but now it'll be in October. So hopefully I will have time then where I can watch a bunch of that. Every time I see these, though, I'm like, I don't know that I would ever go in person. Like, if it came to Phoenix, like, I might have to go one day just to say that I've been to one. But
to like just go and watch people play on PCs.
yeah.
Like, I agree. If you, like, that to me doesn't make any sense at all to do something like that.
Yeah, like, I can go to the bathroom at my own house and make my own snacks in between matches for 20 minutes at a time. Like, I don't really play Dota, so there's not enough for me to, like, be the, actually in on the in of it, because I'm mostly just there, like, watching. So I don't think that it's really my kind of venue to go and probably pay a lot of extra money for not good food, because it's probably at like the convention center or something,
You know what is our kind of venue, though, and our type of events is Game On Expo, because we'll be there next week.
Yeah,
so that'll be fun. Well, I don't know, man. I've never watched like the Dota type stuff. It's really not my scene, to be honest. To watch it, it's always kind of been your thing. I just can't. It's kind of like watching people play video games on YouTube, right? Like, I just can't, unless it's, I beat the game and there's.
But you watch sports.
Yeah, that's true.
Dota is sports. Like, once you understand like the game and what's going on, and you have like, I mean, obviously you have to have an appreciation for it, but like the reason I like it is because watching like a season of football, that's way too many like players and teams and stats and matchups and like things that you have to be a part of. But like when you watch a major, it's over the course of like 2 weeks. There's, the beginning like tier round that you don't even have to watch the group stage. But like the longer you watch, the more of the meta you get to see develop, and you see like which characters are hot this patch, like how can these different teams lane these characters, and like who's got secret strats that they haven't busted out yet. Like, you get such a more condensed whole story than trying to watch 28 weeks of football, or I don't even know how long football goes on for, but like
17 weeks.
17 weeks? It seems longer than that.
Yeah, actually, I think it's technically, it's 17 games in a season, but you have a bye week. But yeah, it's technically 18 weeks, I think, of football, because you have the bye week. So if you get 17 games, you kind of have to have an 18th week. But sports in general it's it's even more than that. So like you're right, like it's condensed in 2 weeks for Dota, whereas like football, I'm season, playoffs, draft, off-season free agency, and trades and everything else that happens over the course of the year. So like I find myself looking up, my team that I follow, like now, right? Like just this week I was Googling some stuff for hockey or, oh God, baseball's even worse, dude.
Baseball is so many games.
Baseball is like April until October is baseball. And it's like 162 games, I think, for baseball. It's just so much. And that's that I'm involved in fantasy baseball and fantasy football and those types of things too. So now you're like really in the weeds of it, and it's terrible. Football, though, to your point, I will like sit back and I'll keep up with my team and I'll watch a game or so every now and then. But I don't like sit back hardcore and like, oh, I have to know every single player's name. There's like a few players, but for the most part, you don't keep track of it. Hockey, I kind of do because it's less people. It's like, I think less than 20 people on a team or something. I don't know. I don't remember.
My hockey knowledge is limited to the Mighty Ducks.
There's less people to keep track of in hockey. Baseball, even less on there. It's only 9 guys on the field and your backups and pitchers and stuff. So yeah, it's a thing. It's definitely harder to keep track of. Anything else?
I did play a little bit more of the Darkness. I got out of the like Nightmare Hell memories, and I got like his guns. The problem that I'm finding is that as I'm playing this game, I'm following a guide because, like I was saying before, like some of the triggers weren't like loading appropriately, so I needed to know that the story was moving forward actually in certain places. And they just want me to go and find all of these phone numbers, and I just don't care about helping all of these people so that I can get phone numbers for whatever they unlock. So I'm just like, I skipped like 3 whole pages of guide because it's like, and then you could help this person get this phone number, and then you could help this person and you'll get this phone number.
Not necessary, obviously.
Yeah, so I'm just like skipping all the superfluous stuff, but it just seems like it's making it go even faster.
That's good.
So I'm trying to like appreciate some of what the game has to offer, because like it's obviously one of those games that has a lot of side quest stuff, and it's telling you there's going to be a reward for doing the side quest stuff, but I know that I don't need to be bothered with it, so I'm just going to move on with things.
I didn't use a guide in the game. I know to start you didn't either, but I would suggest not using a guide. Like if you come across like, oh, can you get my phone number? Cool, do it, right? But like, don't do every single one of them. Like if 1 or 2 pop up, just do it for the sake of like story and the fun aspects of it that come with it. But I understand your point in that if certain areas don't load, you're kind of screwed. I would say the big thing for that is just save a lot.
Yeah.
Like just keep saving, and then, oh crap, it won't load that scene, but I also saved however long ago.
Yeah.
So if you have frequent saves, then you're
it
generally
checkpoints
okay.
you.
Oh yeah, it's true. That's checkpoint you.
So I'll just like reload the checkpoint if it happens. But yeah, it's like I'll just keep going at it. I mean, I think this is the part of the game where it starts to open up more, and maybe that's why it was just like, okay, you're back from the dead. Here's a bunch of stuff you can do, and it's like, yeah, but as the guide, you're telling me I need to just go do all this stuff, but like I do want to finish this game. Like, when am I going to be able to move on? Like with the story part, like I would rather go find out what is happening with the mob stuff than help this lady right now.
I see how it is. You're like, no, I don't have time for a little old lady and carrying her bags. I just have time to shoot mobsters.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, well, let's get into our discussion topic. Ryan thinks he's going to have one over on me here, but we're talking Microsoft and the final word on Final Fantasy.
So, this week there was announced a partnership that John had in doubt. Microsoft and Square Enix team up to release Final Fantasy XIV on Xbox consoles.
Yeah, so I mean, this doesn't surprise me to an extent. It surprises me that it's 14 specifically. I would have imagined they would have said something like, 16 is coming out in 2024 or some shit like that. Obviously, it's not the case, but they did kind of leave the door cracked open in this major announcement of Phil Spencer, coming out on stage. right? That they're looking to partner and bring potentially future games of Square onto, or maybe even just Final Fantasy, onto the Xbox. I think this is normal, to be honest. It's clearly, they used the Square relationship in their trial, right, as one of the sticking points of Sony purchasing exclusivity and all this other stuff. And now, of course, they've shown, we can partner with Square, right? We all know enough money talks and things are going to happen. I'm still going to stick to my guns, though, and say that if the money is right, Sony or Square would be willing. If Square is willing, they would get purchased by Sony.
Yeah, but a company that wants to be sold wouldn't be out there partnering publicly and announcing, plans for future, like Xbox 8 and developing, and releasing new Square products in the future. Like, that doesn't seem like a really good way to entice Sony as a purchaser of you.
I think it does. I think it shows, hey, Sony, we're willing to play ball with Microsoft. We're willing to put Final Fantasy games on there. That's a huge point for your console. Come on and show us some money. Buy us. They're not going to sell to Microsoft. There's no way. A Japanese company like that, they'll liquidate assets.
More happy being independent.
We don't know.
And just making titles for whoever the biggest comer is at the time.
Yeah, and that's true. But if enough money comes in, those executives will be willing to sell.
I mean, yeah, if you just come in and say name your price or whatever, but
yeah,
I mean, you're only trying to purchase for as little money as you have to spend. So for them to just come in and just be like blank check, that's not probably going to happen.
I mean, dude, it's the gaming world. You never know 100% what's going to happen. I mean, did we think the Activision Blizzard acquisition was going to happen with Microsoft before it did? It was never even a thought that would have happened.
Yeah, but they didn't come out right before they got bought and said, hey, Sony, Activision Blizzard here, we're going to partner with you on some new developments for your platform. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but my argument to you earlier, Bethesda
and then Microsoft was like, no, we got to stop that.
But Bethesda did do that, though, before they were acquired, which is why we had all the contractual things that had to happen, right? Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo being specifically on PS5 at the time, whether it was timed exclusive or exclusive only for that console for a longer period of time. That still happened prior to that acquisition. So talks can happen at any point, man. We could hear 2 months from now that they've put in an offer and it's been accepted to purchase Square.
I guess I hear what you're saying. I doubt you're right. I thought maybe I had you more here than maybe I thought I did, but I think I'm still going to count it as a win. Everybody in favor of me counting that as a win, let us know in the comments.
It's a half point. It's a half point.
God, this is like when I got the Call of Duty question right on that podcast.
Yeah.
And it ticked all the boxes, and they were just like, wait, I don't know about that. That's not the answer I have here.
Yeah, you know what? You're not allowed to podcast anymore because you beat me in Call of Duty. Okay, so let's dive into our articles this week. And I think one of our mutual friends will laugh at that comment just now. So we're going to be talking this week, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart has been put onto PC and is basically unplayable without an SSD. That's Wesley Ian Poole at IGN. We're also going to talk about developers and analysts sounding off on the next-gen Nintendo Switch and if it needs to happen in 2024. That's also IGN, Rebecca Valentine. And Xbox expects record-breaking revenue in Q1 of fiscal year 24 after the Starfield launch. This is Tech for Gamers, and it is Obald Yoreman, I think is what we got there. Yoreman?
I think it's
yeah.
Obaid or Rahman.
Yeah, one of the two. Maybe Rahman, yeah. So diving into the first thing here is Ratchet & Clank. And so really the argument that Sony has made for so long is that, games, Ratchet & Clank specifically, can only run on the Sony SSD. And, it seems to me like I read through this and it seems to me like, there's kind of some truth to that, but also not. So if you have a good SSD, you can run this game, and Sony has specific recommended hardware for it, right? And an SSD is that recommended hardware. But people have been able to run it on minimum specs, which is a regular hard drive, and they're finding that the game is virtually unplayable without an SSD, of course, as the title states. So if you're trying to run it on the minimum specs, there's like certain levels, like when you first get into the key point of the game, which is the rift apart scene, right? When he gets sucked in, it pretty much breaks for the most part. And it's, again, laggy, unplayable, not a good experience. And so, again, it kind of sticks to the point that Sony made. It's only playable with our SSD. And, you know, if you're running a pretty high-end PC with a very good SSD, you'll be able to run it no problem, it seems. That's kind of what I've gathered from this. I personally am not going to be playing this on PC. I will end up getting this on my PS5 specifically because I just want that experience.
Yeah. So this was provided by John Linneman, who is from Digital Foundry. They do great stuff. If you haven't checked them out on YouTube and you're looking for more information on, hey, you know, how does this copy of this game go up against this game on PC? What about at this spec level? And they've got usually as many as they can benchmark to be bothered to test and record for. But they put out great data on all different games, all new releases. They do like every game that Sony brings over. They do like extensive testing on all that. So they are really a well-cited source. And I mean, I hear everybody reference them in their videos, and I've been talking about them for a while.
And Digital Foundry also has hardware reviews too, right? For PC, if I recall.
I mean, maybe they do, and I just don't watch those videos. But I mean, yeah, they do all kinds of different things and have all kind of their different, you know, aspects that they talk about or things that they cover. But yeah, check out their content. They do all this kind of stuff. And I know that they were the ones that I was hearing talking about, like, oh, you know, we'll see if it runs on a hard drive when it was coming out.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I knew this was coming.
For sure. And, you know, it's, again, like if you want the best experience here, and that's really where that like PC versus console argument is always so hit or miss, right? Like, yeah, you can play everything on PC, but are you getting the full, like the best experience optimized to your specific computer? And the answer 9 times out of 10 is, you know, probably not, right? Like you can have you know, mid-range PC, and it's not going to look nearly as good as a person running like a $2,500 PC, right? So having a console, you know for sure that the game you're going to get, for the most part, is going to run, and it's optimized to run on that console. So you're always going to get a good experience.
That's why I console game.
You know, that's why I console game too. And then I've got a good, you know, GPU. I've got my computer set up to a point where I can play these higher end games and not have any issues. But console's always like tried and true, right? There's never any troubleshooting or anything I really got to worry about.
You're sitting on a couch.
What's that?
You're sitting on a couch.
I mean, technically I could sit on this chair and game. I got a big
put
round chair.
Put your keyboard down on your lap.
No, use a controller.
Okay.
Yeah, I would still use a controller for the most part. Now, there are some games that kind of require the, like, you know, like Factorio. When I play that, I need to get back into that and beat it. But Factorio is a good example where you really need that mouse and keyboard experience to truly get the experience. But something like The Witcher, I totally would just play with a control, you know. All right, diving into the next thing here is developers and analysts are sounding off on whether or not Nintendo needs that next-gen console. And, you know, this was a long article, by the way.
Yeah, this is a decent size. Rebecca takes a talk with a whole bunch of different studio people and analysts from, you know, some different size companies and gets a bunch of different takes on what the possible future of Nintendo's next console. And it's definitely worth a read and a look in. You know, I thought about some things that I hadn't really thought about with it before. But, I mean, in general, it sounds like most people in the industry are really kind of leaning more towards they can wait. Like, it doesn't seem 100% necessary right now. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised if it comes out, you know, early next year, that we get news on it and then a release next year. Like, that would make a lot of sense too. But people are saying, you know, we could be comfortably waiting until 2025.
Well, so some of the other things on there too that were of interest to really back that up, as they said, Nintendo has, I think it's like $13 billion in cash reserves, right?
Yeah,
so Nintendo,
and no debts.
Yeah, and no debts. So Nintendo can afford to like sit back and take some losses in overall potential revenue coming through because of that. So there's that piece that's kind of sitting there because Switch is expected to decline in overall sales like 15%, 15 or 16% year over year. But that's still, like, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, that's a lot. But you also have a major install base too. So even if your overall sales decline year over year, you have enough consoles out in the market that you could pump out games, keep them at that high $50, $60 range, whatever it may be, and still make enough money to kind of keep things up, right?
Yeah.
So console sales may decline, but you still have a big enough install base that you're going to generate revenue regardless.
Yeah.
And plus, the subscriptions to Nintendo Online, if they continue pushing that, that's another thing to obviously raise the bar in terms of revenue. But I'm a mixed bag on this one, right? So like, I do think that yes, they could totally wait with what they have, and I think the main reason for that is the install base I referenced. But they do need some sort of upgrade, right? Because PS5 is going to have a mid-year or mid-life cycle upgrade coming up pretty soon. Xbox, I don't think will, but
No,
they might do like a slim
just recently
version.
said that like the
X,
Series
Series
X is their mid-range.
And S being the baseline, which is interesting that they say that because the S is technically the power of a current PS5 for the most part. So whatever the new mid-year PS5 is going to be or mid-life cycle, it's going to be better than the X, right? So it's kind of interesting they would do that. But we know Xbox is pushing, Game Pass. That's a big thing right now. And who knows? Maybe it'll partner with Sony and we'll have Game Pass on Sony down the road. But, all of that said, I do really feel that they need some sort of upgrade. If it's 2024, 2025, whatever at that point, they could sustain until then. But they need to get something new out the door. Backwards compatible and better specs, right? I think that's the key. And then, of course, naming-wise, you probably want to do Nintendo Switch 2 or Super Nintendo Switch or something to at least differentiate it better than the Wii and Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the Wii U obviously was a downfall. They may have the same issue though, right? The next console may be a major flop because of that situation, right? Because you have such a large install base and then trying to get into that next one, are you going to have enough people that they're still selling so much right now that you have families that are going to say, no, we just bought a Switch. We just bought a Switch Lite. Why are we going to go ahead and buy Nintendo Switch 2? Why do you need that? Oh, it plays Switch games as well? No, you can hold off because they're still making Switch games. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here over the next couple of years. But I do think they'll release something. Signs are pointing to early 2024 from other articles that I've read. Whether
Always
or not they
a
do
rumor
that.
mill.
Oh, with Nintendo especially,
we were talking about this every month for
2021.
Yeah,
we were talking about it. Yeah. So I mean, it's needed. The market wants something new, and they may have passed up a great opportunity to do it back then when those rumors were hot. But you never know if they weren't developing anything then, or if they're not planning on developing.
the
anything
thing
right
is,
now.
they've probably, and they cite this in the article, they're likely already might have something basically ready to go, and they're just waiting for it to hit a certain revenue cap that they don't want to go below, and at that point they'll act. But until then, they'll just let the numbers play out because they are still dropping numbers, but they're holding numbers better than any 7-year life cycle has done before. So they're still doing better than what they and anybody would have bet. So why not ride that out?
But here's the thing too, though. You can't exactly unless you have first-party titles, which is very possible, right? That you have first-party titles already optimized, developed, ready to go for this new console. What are you doing in terms of third parties, right? So if you have a new console, we probably would have heard by now, we heard from a source that's under NDA from Nintendo that they have a development kit for the next console. When it's going to be released, they don't know, but they're developing for it. We haven't heard anything like that. And if you're going to release a new console, you kind of have to give your third-party developers a heads up of hey, this is what's happening. Unless the NDA specifically states you can't mention anything whatsoever, and there's a select amount, whatever it may be. So who knows? I mean, I imagine Nintendo is going to be it's going to be spring. There's going to be some random-ass Nintendo Direct, and then they're going to say, pre-orders are up now. It releases next month. I could totally see Nintendo doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's going to be as powerful as the Series S, and it'll be something that won't be super hard to port things over. So like maybe they can just give like games that are already in development with third parties an option to be able to port it over to Switch at a later time. Not quite call it a console launch, but get it in the first 6 months.
I think we're going to end up with probably PS4 quality.
Yeah.
That's what we'll end up with. That's what I think most people expect.
I mean, as long as it can beat the Steam Deck at what the Steam Deck's doing, that's really their biggest competition.
Yeah, that's true. And really, that's not even very much competition when you think about it. So the other thing here is Xbox is expecting record-breaking revenue in Q1 of 2024 after the Starfield launch. I don't know about this. They're expecting Starfield is going to sell crazy amounts of copies, and they're going to break all these revenue amounts, right? They did, in fact, like they're up in terms of revenue in 2023, as far as I know, and that makes sense given Game Pass, as a whole, right? But like in reading this, they missed Game Pass subscriptions, like their figures, by 10 million, apparently. Like they thought they're going to be 10 million higher. The other part here is that they're giving away Game Pass like first month for what, $1 or something like that? Unless you're locking people in for like, hey, it's the first month is $1, but you have to commit to a year. Unless they're doing that, you're going to have people that are like, nope, I'll just get Game Pass for 1 month, play Starfield, and bolt.
Yeah, but I think a lot of why it's, potentially looking good for them, if they can close on Activision, in October, then they'll start pumping those Activision games and Blizzard games into Game Pass lineup. So if you do sign up for Starfield, I mean, it's going to take you a while to finish Starfield, and maybe by the time you're done, those games start hitting Game Pass, and all of a sudden you've got a whole new wave of reasons to stick around. So, I mean, time-wise, like, if Starfield's your foot in the door with Game Pass, like, it's a good service. Like, there's lots of stuff on there. Like, I totally could have gotten Game Pass just for a month, but I kept sticking around because it was worthwhile. And, I mean, I would download the PlayStation Plus games, but I would never play them. With this, it's like they're just there, and I could download them and play them, but I don't have like 30 days to get it, or I'm going to have to pay for it beyond there. It's like it'll be on Game Pass as long as it is, and if I don't ever play it, I probably was never going to pay for it anyways. But I don't have this like fear keeping me doing it over and over again.
Yeah, makes sense. I just don't know that like this particular game, and even with Activision, I don't know that they're going to like break revenue based off of this game, given that it is on Game Pass. You're not necessarily selling more consoles because it can be on PC. You already have a decent subscriber base as is, so like you would have to significantly increase your subscriber base to be able to break the revenue that they're thinking they're going to break.
And it's been a long time since Fallout.
Mathematically, I don't think it works. So we'll see if they do. I'm interested to see what happens after Q1, but I think they're going to miss, dude. Like, math-wise, it doesn't work.
Right.
In what I've been reading and what I've been seeing on there, they would have to hit a pretty good subscriber base to truly break revenue. And if it's on game, it's not like you're selling them at $70 a pop. You're giving it away on Game Pass. So once
they're also selling it for $70 a pop.
They are, but the average Xbox player, when you do the math, why would you pay? And that's the argument, right, with PlayStation games, right? They're both on Xbox and PlayStation. Why would you pay full price for Call of Duty when you can get it on Game Pass, right?
So they're funneling you the way they want you to go.
Yeah, they are. But
you don't have to.
But once that's done, once I'm subscribed, I'm on there maybe 1 month, 2 months. Say it's a year. If it is a year, it's what, like $100 a year?
Yeah, but what if you want to keep that game?
I mean, what, do you download it on there and you keep it, or do you buy it for $70? Like, once you beat Starfield, are you going back to Starfield if you put 200
a lot of people
in?
go back and revisit Bethesda games.
Well, I mean, depends on who you are as a gamer. But I just don't think that, when you're kind of, it's cannibalization of potential revenue is the way I see it. Like, you're selling these games at $70 a pop, but you're also offering a service that price-wise is not much more annually than buying it at $70. So yeah, subscribe to it. But we've seen how that's affecting Disney, for example. Disney has lost millions of subscribers on their service because if they're not putting out good quality content, or they are, people are binging that content and they drop the service and they pick it up when something else comes out, right? You could do the same exact thing with Game Pass as well.
Yeah.
I only want to play Starfield. I don't care to purchase all these other games. I don't want to pay $70, but I'm interested in buying, playing these other games. Cool. Now you're not buying those $70 games that are going directly to Microsoft in terms of revenue from both a developer standpoint and, Microsoft. So I just don't see them hitting that number. But who knows? Maybe it'll surprise me. We don't really see Microsoft numbers much to begin with, which is very interesting given that they're a public company. All right. Last thing here is our inflation deflation of the week, and that's Sega Bass Fishing on the Dreamcast. It was developed by Sims for Dreamcast. What developer? Sims for Dreamcast version?
No, so this Dreamcast version was developed by Sims.
Sims, that's
because it's got like a different publisher for like every version that came out.
So there's a developer named Sims?
Yes,
I've never heard of them. That might be why we're going to talk about the game the way we do. It was published by Sega. We don't have a director here this week. It was released in September of 1999. It is a fishing game, of course. Reception is around a 7-ish out of 10. And then Ryan's fantastic synopsis, you fish.
Mm-hmm.
So
you fish.
Lay on the details for us here. You fish.
Turn the rod to the left.
Oh, no, he's going away.
Yeah, so this was a pretty arcadey port experience. Like, I really did feel like I was playing an arcade game. I mean, we had the fishing rod attachment again, or controller again, but it was like giving you all the, bright flashing arrows and audible directions from those like type of voice actors you would expect to be doing, a late 90s arcade title. So it was very immersive in that way, like being at an arcade, but not so much in the fishing department.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the control or the game. I think it's the game, to be honest. But like when we played Sega Marine Fishing, it felt very fluid, right?
Yeah.
You cast, you reel, everything.
We didn't notice any problems.
Yeah. This game, from the get-go, we were like, it's not reeling in all the way. Like the input's not there. There's something up with it. I pulled the disc out. There was a couple smudges. I cleaned them up. Still issues throughout. I'm sure if we put in Sega Marine Fishing, we wouldn't have those issues like we did with this one. Or maybe my controller is messed up and I need a new one. Who knows in that regard. It really just kind of takes some troubleshooting, and we didn't have time to troubleshoot. But we got
still
enough.
did better in this one than we did in the other one, though.
We did, and I think that was because this game is easier as far as catching those fish and what you do. So if you need to move the rod to the left, joystick. Need to move the rod to the right, joystick to the right. Picking lures I felt much easier. Like from a visual standpoint and a gameplay standpoint, it, to me, was a much better game from that perspective. But the controls were horrid in comparison. Even just like if you want to cast out, there was no depth to it. It was, you want to cast out? There's no short casts. There's no super long cast. It's just long cast. Oh, you want to cast up to a pier? Sure. But like we noticed, and there were certain instances where there were like fish underneath a pier, but you couldn't cast any further out. So they're just like giant bass chilling underneath the pier, and you couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And no lure that you used would get them out. So what are you supposed to do? Right?
Yeah. It was not really, I don't know. There were things about this one that I liked more than I liked with the other one. I mean, obviously being more successful makes me feel better as a gamer as I'm playing the game. But yeah, I just think that it really leaves a lot to be desired in the fishing game department compared to the last game we played. And I think the pricing weighs that out as well here, right? I don't remember the prices on the last game. I'm going to look real quick.
Okay, you look up that. I'll get into the brass tacks on pricing here for this game, though. So a complete in-box copy will run you $11.99 or $12. That peaked at $16.07 in November of 2022, like everything else did. Except there was one person that overpaid. They paid $20 in September of 2014. Back then, that was a peak. It is holding steady in terms of price point. A loose copy right now runs you $8.99. That peaked at $11.68 in August of last year, except another random person who paid $25 for a loose copy in November of 2014. So don't know what the hell happened there, but it seems that one is trending probably steady as well for us right now. Digital console, though, it's $4.99 on Xbox. Digital for PC, it's $7.99 on Steam. And it also includes a Dreamcast bundle. But what's interesting is I was reading earlier that it might have been last week. I don't know if it's still going on as of this recording. But they were giving away free Steam keys for this game, too. So that's pretty cool if they are. So go check that out. As far as, did you find a price point on the last one? The Marine Fishing?
Yeah, it was pretty close. It was like 12 for complete and like 9 for loose.
Gotcha. So pretty much the same price. My rating, if I was looking at like an out of 10 score, the experience we had, I'd probably put it at a solid 6. Is what I would put this at.
I guess if we were putting this compared to the other fishing game, which one would you go with?
I'd go with the Marine Fishing. I felt that the Marine
What
Fishing...
if it was your controller? Like, what if the controller was better?
I would still go with the other one because I felt that... Graphically, I felt this one's a little bit better. But I feel that the Marine Fishing had a little bit more going for it in terms of variety.
It had the like mini games as impossible as they were.
Yeah, like, and that could be the controller too, right? The mini game piece. But I think that there was more variety in the Sega Marine Fishing than this one. I did like that this was more of a classic, like, Super Black Bass style tournament, where you get whatever fish. But I think the controller could have been the issue. If not, then this game was obviously the issue. And I would definitely go with the Marine Fishing.
Probably the setting and the choice of fish is probably better too.
Yeah, and Marine Fishing for sure. Like, you're like, oh, mahi-mahi, oh, a shark, a barracuda, amberjack. Like, I think there was grouper. Like, there's tons of other fish and modes and stuff that you could play there.
This was bass.
This one was just bass. There were other, like I saw, I saw
a catfish and a turtle.
Yeah,
and a
but
frog.
They didn't come our way, right? Like, we couldn't catch them. So I think, like, honestly, they should have allowed us to catch a turtle, because that is something that legit you would catch in a freshwater setting, but it's not. So rating wise, let's just say the game was fine and it's a controller. $12. I mean, I think that's okay. I think that's just right, given that's a Sega Dreamcast game. If you find a nice minty copy for $12, cool. If you find it for 10, you'll get some fun out of it. You know, you don't have to use the fishing rod controller.
I say we say that it's inflated then and just call it good at 10.
Sure. It is inflated.
Inflated.
All right.
We blew that bass up.
Yeah. We bass jokes are just going to get me for sure. Like, yeah, there's more that we could do. We should have done more with this.
Well, maybe we'll play another bass game again.
Maybe we will. This is our second bass game on the podcast. I think we're all bassed out. Yeah, too much bass.
We've passed bass.
Yeah. I guess that kind of works. All right, we don't know what we're playing next week. We didn't get a chance to play the second game for next week, so we'll figure that out. I don't know. Maybe something else maybe something on your emulation device.
Well, we'll be able to talk about Game On, won't we?
Oh, yeah, that's true. We got Game On Expo, so we don't need to play a game.
Game On.
Game On, for sure. So if you're at Game On Expo and you see us, we'll have a Game Deflators shirt. Say hi. Hopefully we see you there. Otherwise, this has been episode 246 of Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
And I'm Ryan.
Thanks for listening.